Hits and Crits. This video is brought to you by Asmodee.
Hello and welcome to another Season 6 update video. New rules, new patch, new everything. And we're going to talk Targaryens today. And I'm so happy that I have Randall with me, my favorite Targaryen player, except me and myself. Randall, happy to have you here. Thank you for coming over.
Yeah, thanks, Dennis. It's always a pleasure to talk with you. I've been a long time Targaryen player, and we've been making steady progress the last several patches. So it's always nice to talk about good things in the faction.
Yes, absolutely. Targaryens are smiling through these last few patches. We're going to go into everything quickly. We're going to gloss over a couple of changes that are maybe not super impactful or that are kind of obvious maybe. But then again, we have people watching who might not be super into the meta yet and want to catch up with this video. So we're also going to try and explain some stuff. If by any chance you have questions or anything, leave a comment in the comments down below. Also check the description for any links to our Discord, to our Patreon. If you want to support us, that would be great. And of course, also go to the Imperial Minis channel. Randall is making amazing content, awesome battle reports. So check out his channel as well. All right, should we go?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So we have the following agenda. We're going to talk a little bit about where does the faction come from, like we always do. Then we're going to look at the changes, and we'll start with NCU. Then with tactics cards, a couple of tactics cards have changed. Some of the commander attachments have changed. Then other attachments that have gotten an update, and combat units. And then we're going to close off with implications that the patch has for House Targaryen. And we're going to show you some lists that you might want to try out. All right, Randall, why don't you talk us through where the faction came from?
Sure. So over the past several patches, cmon has been making some pretty steady progress in tweaking the faction and bringing some of the tactics cards up in power level slightly. They've been improving some of the units, some of the commanders, some of the attachments. So they've been really working steadily to increase the power level of the faction gradually, not with any like massive sweeping changes. And then it seems like in the last season, in season 5, the faction really kind of stepped apart from the crowd a little bit and started making some waves in the competitive scene.
Yes. Especially
with the Dany Mother of Dragons list, because some of her tactics cards were changed in season 5 to be much more powerful. And so we've seen a lot of top tier players using Mother of Dragons and doing quite well in big tournaments over the past season, and especially here at the end of season 5, we saw a lot of Mother of Dragons lists at the Invitational or Adepticon. So Mother of Dragons is very powerful right now and strong. Well, as of season 5 it was, and then Drogo lists have just been constantly strong within the faction, and that hasn't changed really that much in season 5. So going into season 6, we're looking back at Mother of Dragons being very powerful, Drogo being powerful, and then now we're looking forward to see if any of the changes in season 6 will shake that up at all.
Yeah, absolutely. And Skahaz has become quite popular as a commander as well, like second half of season 5, I guess. So a couple more infantry lists as well. But yeah, so a lot of good commanders that were very competitive for Targaryens. Was the end of season 5. And now let's check what has changed for the faction. And we'll start off with the NCU changes. Maybe get rid of that S. It's just one NCU. We're looking at Illyrio Mopatis here right now, whose card hasn't been changed much. The only part of it that has been changed is that after you restore those 3 wounds, when you replace a zone, with him, you can place 1 condition token on 1 enemy they are engaged with. Before it was 1 weaken token. So now you can
Mhm.
pick one of those 3 tokens. Randall, is that impactful for you, or do you see any use out of it, or situations where this will change things, or his pick rate, or anything?
No, I don't see you taking him over Miri Mazdur, or
Yeah.
if you're looking for another healing NCU, I don't see you taking him over Tycho,
Yeah.
really. I think maybe if they had changed it to be, instead of each time he claims his own, to like start of any turn, he has these 2
Mm-hmm.
order tokens to do 3, heal 3, and put a token, that would be pretty strong. But
Nice.
it's kind of like they're walking back slightly, ever so slightly, some of the nerfs that they've made to him, because he used to do zone replace, heal 3, and weaken a unit you're engaged with. So they're kind of, seems like, walking that back a little bit to get back
Mm-hmm.
closer to that. But
Yes.
still, over the course of the game, he's only healing 6 wounds. Miri Mazdur will heal the same amount over the course of the entire game if it goes to 6 rounds. It's not as much of a burst heal, but
Mm-hmm.
if you want that burst heal NCU, you're still, I think, going to take Tycho,
Yeah, you'll absolutely
especially in like
take him.
a dragon, especially with the dragons being so
Right.
prominent right now.
And Tycho heals 5, so he heals
Hmm.
almost as much as Illyrio, but is much more flexible and has
Yeah.
doubles down on that burst heal. Yeah, absolutely, I agree. I mean, it is nice that you can pick another token, and in some lists it might be a bit helpful to pick another a token than the weakened token. But the weakened token is so strong, especially if you are already
Hmm.
engaged with these squishy Targaryen units, that you really want your opponent that you're engaged with already to have that weakened token in order to survive. So
Yeah.
probably even if you pick him, you'll probably still often take the weakened token anyways. But yeah, we'll see. But it is a change, and I can see that the developers are kind of careful now. And before a big change to him and change to Miri, he was the auto pick. Now Miri is the auto pick. So if they buff him too
Hmm.
much, it might be reverted or something, or you have some power creep going on, and we have those 2
Hmm.
super NCUs. So yeah, we'll see. All right, so that covers all the NCU changes. And next up, we're going to talk about the tactics cards. So assault orders and sustained assault have been changed. Would you like to talk about one of those? Pick one.
Sure. I'll take sustained assault. So sustained assault, it changed a couple of seasons ago in the Baratheon faction. So the
Mm,
Baratheons got their sustained assault updated to be, uh, if you start the turn engaged, you get highest attack die and rerolls. And every other version of sustained assault in the game still read, if you're engaged, you get highest attack die, but if it's your commander, you get rerolls. So for a couple of seasons, or for a season or 2, what was it, season 4 and season 5, Baratheons had the best version of sustained assault. But
mhm.
now sustained assault has been changed to bring all of them kind of up to the same level. So now sustained assault will always give highest attack die value and rerolls, and if it's your commander's unit, then it'll give a vulnerable token. So it's definitely stronger now. It will give two benefits no matter what, and then you'll get the benefit of the vulnerable token if it's your commander's unit. So strong. It's not uniquely strong to Targaryen, since
Mhm.
every faction that has sustained assault will get this change also. But it's definitely a good thing. I mean, sustained assault in a Barristan Selmy list is pretty good, because he also has the opportunity to get a +1 to his attack die, to his
Yes.
to hit roll. So if he's in Sword Masters, he could be
Yes.
hitting on a 2+ with all those dice and a vulnerable token. So it's definitely increasing the power level of Barristan by just a little tiny bit, in
Mhm.
combination with his attachment card, which we'll see a little bit later. But yeah, it's a good change. I like it.
Mhm. Yeah, and we haven't talked about those 4 extra attachment points that we
Hmm.
got now, because that's the obvious thing for the change and the general change. But we'll talk a bit later about how that changes things up for Targaryens. But I can now also see Barristan benefiting from this and having some more elite units that get buffed with attachments that can make for this kind of grindy, I want to be engaged playstyle that he's bringing,
Hmm.
because often Targaryens are a bit squishy for that, and yeah, really like
Yeah.
that. And then we have assault orders. So assault orders has been changed. basically to the fact that if you get that extra attack at a zone replace, friendly combat unit performs 1 melee attack action using its lowest attack die value. So that's new. Lowest attack die value wasn't in there. That's the new part. It's still for Khal Drogo does that if it's his commander's unit that's targeted, then it can still perform the charge, but again, using its lowest attack die value. So it is a nerf for assault orders. It's across the board. We've talked about it in previous videos, and it's a general or universal change to that card. Yeah, is it impactful? I think it is. For all the factions, we talked about it earlier in other videos. It takes down that alpha strike potential a little bit. It takes down the power of extra attacks you get in the game, and it's definitely a nerf for Khal Drogo's deck. Assault Orders is his strongest card, or was his strongest card, that you would always fish for, especially with his charge and his ability to inflict auto wounds and so on. And now it's only lowest attack die. And that, of course, hurts the calf units quite a bit. Screamer will go down to 4 dice, I think. So if they're on the last rank, so lowest die is 4 dice. Yeah, that's definitely a nerf to Drogo. However, if you put him in the Bloodrider's unit, they only drop down to 6 dice. So Assault Orders, Drogo as a commander in Bloodriders doesn't lose much. But yeah, still.
But then you lose the Bloodrider attachment buff that we'll talk about later.
We will definitely talk about that. Yes. But I really like the Bloodriders unit also, and I'm sure I'm going to still play them just because I like it so much and it's so fluffy, right? Drogo in his Bloodriders charging and going, whatever, the 2 of us died, we still have 6 dice, let's go kill stuff. Yeah, that's great. All right, so that's it for the tactics cards. I think Drogo is still a strong commander and still very strong, and we'll talk about those attachments that more than make up for that nerf to Assault Orders within the Targaryen faction. So I think the Targaryen faction, as opposed to, for example, Starks, are not that affected by this universal change. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's talk about commanders. Some of the commander attachments have gotten changed. Jorah Mormont, Westerosi tactician, now has his ambush changed. That's a universal change in the game. Daario Naharis, Stormcrow captain, motivated by coin, also a universal change in the game. And Barristan Selmy the Bold, knightly vow, is also a universal change. So all of these are changes across all factions. Would you like to talk about one of them? Pick one.
Yeah, sure. I'll talk. I'll go back to Barristan again since I talked about him last time.
Sense.
So knightly vow changed to, it was previously a positive. If you had positive control of the swords, then your melee attacks would go to +1 to hit. But now cmon has been doing a lot of this kind of negative control designing and redesigning, where it's not so much about what you control, but what your opponent doesn't control. So knightly vow has changed. Instead of if you control the swords, it's if your opponent does not control the swords, you gain, your melee attacks gain +1 to hit. Now, realistically, the swords zone going from usually round 2 onward is one of if not the first zone that's claimed. So chances are there may not be a huge difference between if you control the zone versus if your opponent does not control the zone, because that zone is going to get slammed first in a lot of rounds anyway. But if it's one of those rounds or situations where your opponent doesn't snatch it before you do, or they need another zone more desperately, then you can definitely take advantage of this and get +1 to hit. So I don't think there's necessarily a huge difference in the effect that this change is going to have, unless I'm just not seeing something. But it's I think it's a buff, because I mean you could take another zone, you could activate Barristan start of the round and attack something, you don't have to control the swords to get the bonus because your opponent doesn't control the sword. So
Yes.
I would say it is a minor
Mm.
buff to
Yeah.
Barristan. And
Yeah,
so
I agree.
I think it's a good change.
Yeah,
It's an interesting change more than anything, because there's this
absolutely.
negative and positive control thing that
Mhm.
they're doing here with the design, which I think is pretty interesting.
Yeah, interesting. I think it's good because it makes it more flexible. I mean, you have to pay more attention a little bit to maybe the circumstances and remember all of this. But yeah, it's also with the new Unsullied abilities for the two Unsullied units, right? There's also this negative control
Yeah.
or does not control. I think that, as you said, there's like situations where it works. I think I can think of two. One you already said, like beginning of a round, you attack a unit and swords have not been claimed, and you need to activate because you are not engaged. So that's something that helps you. I mean, there's a question if you want to do that a lot, because then you'll get hit by swords afterwards, probably. And another one is, of course, like maybe if you start engaging end of a round. So if you maybe have the last activation or one of the last activations in the round and swords is already claimed, and maybe you claimed it because nothing was going to charge or you didn't want to charge, and put Miri on there, replaced it, whatever. And then at the end of the round, you charge and attack, and you have, I don't know, have Miri on it or whatever, or you shot with your outriders from it. Oh no, you can't. Oh yeah, you can still. Okay, I was thinking about bags. Yeah. So that those two situations is where it might come in handy.
Also, there's also the missions. Missions where you could give up a victory point by taking the swords.
Yes.
Or give up a victory point claiming any zone. So in those situations, some of this negative control mechanics would benefit you. So if nobody wanted to take the swords, because if they did, they would give up a victory point, your Barristan unit and your Unsullied units would definitely benefit as a result of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So in those game modes where those mission decks are out, this can actually be really good. Okay, cool. And then we have Dario Naharis, Motivated by Coin. It's a general change. We're not going to talk too much about it because it's been talked about in other videos as well. But now you don't get that extra attack anymore. So this impacts things like the Outrider Xaro combo we had last season, where Xaro would generate one of his tokens when he goes to bags, and then with a Fortune Seeker in the Outriders, you could also shoot them because they had Motivated by Coin. This doesn't work anymore. It's the same thing with assault orders. It takes down these extra attack power, or in this case, completely takes out an extra attack opportunity through bags. I think it's still good. Now you'll just use it completely differently because it's been reworked. You'll use it in other units maybe, because rerolls and restoring one wound is still a great skill or great ability if your opponent does not control the bags. So I think this is cool, and I think it doesn't make Dario picked more. I think there's some other issues that Dario has in Targs why he's not picked that much. But I really want to experiment with this change, and I haven't tried Motivated by Coin enough to have any conclusion yet.
Yeah, okay. It's also good because it means that you're not going to put Dario in a ranged unit anymore and just have this cool swordsman guy sitting back in a Golden Company crossbow unit.
True.
Because you're not getting the free shots. So now you're going to put him in a unit that's going to be up there actually fighting.
Yeah, makes sense. All right. So we have Jorah Mormont, Ambush Universal Change. Would you like to talk about that quickly? I think we can do that.
Yeah. So Ambush got changed universally. So now you get all 3 tokens essentially if you attack something in the flank or the rear. So I think this is really good for Jorah, especially because he has that tactics card. What is it? Feinting maneuver, where if he attacks something in the front, he can reorient himself to the flank. So even if Jorah is running right into the face of something, he'll be able to play that card and then go into the flank of it and then make that. So does this work? So it says successfully charges in the flank or the rear. So does that mean when he hits it in the front, he reorients and then gives them the tokens, or does he count as successfully charging once he's in the front and now you don't?
Yeah, good question. Because
maybe
of
somebody in the
his
comments can.
because of his tactics card, right? I don't know if I can look it up now, but yeah, that would be an interesting question of how the timing works on this.
Yeah, let's
And
see. So
it's
what is it? Fainting maneuver.
fainting maneuvers, yeah. When a friendly unit successfully charges, when a unit successfully when enemies this unit successfully charges, looks like it's the same time, same timing, and if it's the same timing, you can decide what happens first. That would be my take.
Okay.
Just
right.
from
Yeah,
looking
well,
at it quickly, didn't think it through. If please correct us in the comments if you think the timing is different. But I think the active player
sounded
can
right in
decide.
my head. Yeah, it sounded right in my head when I was thinking about it. So if that's the case, then it makes Jorah's attachment even stronger because he can attack something in the flank with vulnerable and panic. So it opens up some opportunities for Jorah Commander, and then some other things we're going to talk about later will also open up some opportunities, I think, for Jorah.
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe one more thing about Dario. I mean, we'll talk about pit fighters later because they also got a change. But here, I think you could put Dario commander in pit fighters quite well because he's motivated by coin. Your opponent does not control bags, and his improved armaments while you control bags. You get sundering and highest attack die value. And that synergizes well. You take bags, your opponent therefore doesn't control it, so you get both of these things for a melee attack, and it can kind of offset the heal of motivated by coin can kind of offset the wounds that pit fighters take when they attack. That could be something that you could play around with to make them have a bit more sustain and so that would work maybe. Just thought of that, but let's go to
that's a good idea.
some more attachments. Now, not commander attachments, but attachments that got their points reduced. So here we have the Brazen Beast Captain, whose point cost was reduced to 1 from 2. And Marcellin got his points reduced from 2 to 1 as well. And would you like to talk about maybe Marcellin? I know you like Marcellin a lot and play him as a commander a lot, but I'm sure you like the attachment as well.
Yeah. So I've always liked Marcellin commander for sure, and then I've always wanted to take him as an attachment, but he's always been 2 points, which is just, I think, it's a crazy cost for what he brings. Dauntless is good. Embolden is good. Make sure guys around you have better morale. But Targaryens generally have pretty decent morale anyway, so you never really felt like you needed Embolden all that much. But I think Dauntless is great, especially if you have a unit of Unsullied swords maybe that are not your commander's bunker. Then throwing Dauntless into them will double up potentially the heal they get from passing a morale test because of their combat prowess. So I really like Marcellin at 1 point. I don't know if I'm going to always be taking him as one of my free attachments, especially if this meta evolves to be similar to the last season's meta of Cav and dragons being very prominent. But I think at least for funsies purposes and fluff purposes, I'll definitely be looking to maybe put Marcellin in a Unsullied army that I could maybe put on the table. Might not be the most competitive thing, but I like Unsullied, and I'm still waiting for the day when they'll be more competitive.
Right. Okay. Yeah, makes sense. And with the 4 free attachment points, you can probably fit him into at least fluffy lists easily. But again, more heal is always good. And maybe you can get some synergies with units that cause damage, or attachment where you have something that causes damage when they pass a morale test or something. All right. Brazen Beast Captain, again, from 2 to 1. So same goes for him. Now with those free attachment points, you can easily fit him into an infantry heavy list. And he still has his Order Insight, he still has Furious Judge, but he lost Iron Resolve, right? Yeah, Iron Resolve. He lost
Yep.
in order to make up for that 1 point that he's now cheaper. I think that's quite fair. He was never used, as you said, same with Marcelen. And now he can be used for 1 point. All right, so now let's talk about attachments that got their abilities changed. And there's Dario Naharis, Reckless Mercenary, and Miri Mazdur, Resentful Healer. And both of them got some changes to abilities. Randall, why don't you talk about Miri?
Sure. So Miri's ability, she got an ability added, and then her Magi's healing ability changed. So it used to be, you roll a d3 and you choose from a couple of abilities or a couple of effects. But if you get a 3, you suffer a wound.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you roll a 3, nothing happens. So it's you've kind of lost that negative aspect of her ability, and now it's all just positive. So, or at least it's either positive or just net neutral, nothing happens. So
Yeah.
you're no longer hurting yourself with Miri Mazdur. And then she also picked up Stubborn Tenacity. So if your unit
Mm-hmm.
passes a panic test, an enemy that they're engaged with suffers a wound. So you get a little bit of reactive damage out of her now. But we're still kind of running up against that age-old problem of you have a priceless NCU. So why would you want to take a attachment with that same name? The kind of
Mm-hmm.
opportunity cost of taking this attachment is pretty high because you're losing Miri Mazdur NCU, especially in season 6 where Miri Mazdur NCU can resurrect a slain attachment.
Mm-hmm.
I think her stock has gone up a little bit this season, even more than it already was at. I mean, she was already kind of an auto include, but now when most of your combat units that aren't monsters or most of your cav and infantry combat units are going to have an attachment in them. So
Yeah.
if one of them dies, you can use Miri Mazdur's replacement effect ability to bring that attachment back and ignore attachment limits in one of your units. So I think if anything, her NCU is now more desirable.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to see that her attachment has gotten changed. It's better. It's a better
Mm-hmm.
attachment. You can't say that it's worse at all, but I still think it's standing in the really long shadow of her NCU.
Yeah. Her NCU is really strong. So don't forget that she's one of the few attachments that ignores attachment limits. So you can put her
Mm-hmm.
into your commander bunker, for example, alongside the commander,
Yeah.
or just any other infantry unit that already has an attachment, and you can put her in there.
Mm-hmm.
And with those 4 free points, you can put her in there for free, or for one of those 4 points. So
Mm-hmm.
it's not bad to do
Yeah,
that,
yeah, that is something to think
and
about.
give the unit a bit more healing and sustain, and also when it's engaged, cause some wounds to the enemy. So I think at
Mm-hmm.
least people are going to try out a lot of those lists with a lot of attachments to fill up those 4 points, and she's really good at filling up the last point that you haven't used. If that's always
Mm-hmm.
the optimal or optimized case, I doubt, but it's going to be a lot of fun putting her in these lists, I think. All
Yeah.
right. Great. And now, are you ready, Randall? Are you ready for the big one? For the big ones. 4 of them. Where's my hand? There. It's 4 of them. The Bloodriders. Let's go. Wow. What do we have here? Talk us through, Randall.
All right. Well, all of their abilities are identical. They haven't changed at all. But now they all went from 2 points to 1 point. So now these guys are some of the most powerful cavalry attachments point for point in the game.
Yes.
I remember when the patch first dropped, somebody was complaining about the mountain that rides attachment
Yeah.
being 3
3
points
points.
still
Mm-hmm.
and having very similar unweakenable ability. And then you look at these Bloodrider attachments and they're unweakenable, also have really good abilities, but they're only 1 point. So these guys being 1 point it's definitely going to get people out there making cav skew lists, I think. It goes back to our conversation about Jorah, that Jorah might be a more popular commander, or people that will at least be experimenting with him a lot more in the early part of this season, I think, and taking maybe a few cav units along with him and sticking some of these Bloodriders into those units. So you could have a army that's almost entirely unweakenable. And let's say you had a cav unit that had a Bloodrider in it, and that unit with the Bloodrider got killed. Then you could potentially use
Magic.
Mazdur NCU to bring that Bloodrider back
Yes.
into Jorah's unit. You only get 1 wound back, but you drop him back into Jorah's unit. Now Jorah's unit is unweakenable and has whatever that Bloodrider's ability is too. So you can do some crazy stuff, I think, now with having all these Bloodriders. You could have all the Bloodriders in your army for the cost of your free attachment allowance. So that's pretty crazy.
That is really cool. I have to say, this is a lot of fun. I mean, this was the thing that stands out in this patch for Targaryens for sure, and is extremely powerful, I believe. It was the first list I built was an all cav list like this with Khal Drogo first, and then later with Jorah, realizing that he's also really strong in this now, in these lists. But wow, a lot of people saying this is overpowered, and the lists that will come out the Targaryen lists that are all cav will cause a lot of headache for the opponents, and I can totally see that. I also heard people complaining about the mountain costing 3 points, the cavalry attachments, and I can totally see that kind of sucks, right? Having that for 3 points, and these guys are just 1 point. You have to take into account, of course, you cannot always compare pure costs or pure attachments across factions, because you have to also take into account what does the faction do, what does the tactics deck do, what kind of units are they in what is the play style. And Targaryens are super squishy, so having units that cannot be weakened makes sense, because they need to kill. They need the alpha strike, especially the cav lists, and they need to kill something quickly. They cannot stay engaged. So if they get weakened, that first charge will already be weaker, and it'll take too long to kill something. So it kind of it works well for to cover some of the weakness of Targs, and they're still very, very squishy and die. But this already covers one of the things they need to do is they need to stay strong and have a lot of damage output, and this guarantees that damage output. So it will be very, very strong, I think, in this season, and we'll see.
It'll be interesting to see if a cav heavy list takes the place of like Mother of Dragons in the competitive scene. I know if you ask most players what would they rather face, a dragon list or a cav list, most players will probably take the cav list over the dragon list, and just from the aspect of just being on the receiving end of that kind of a list.
Yeah, at least you can roll defense dice, right? You can do something.
Yeah, you can at least have a chance of blocking some of the hits. You have some kind of say. It never feels good when you just are having the game played against you and you're not playing the game yourself. That's kind of how the dragons feel. Like, I love dragons, I love playing with the dragons, but I usually only ever play them if I'm in a tournament, because it doesn't feel great as your opponent just getting torched by a dragon. So I don't usually inflict it upon local players very often, and I would think that most players would prefer to have a horde of Dothraki with Bloodriders than to have a horde of dragons flying against them. But we'll see. We'll see if it. I have a feeling they will make some waves in this patch, and we'll see how they balance out compared to some other lists. But I think it's pretty cool.
Definitely cool. I mean, I couldn't play them before. Nobody played them. They were 2 points. They were just too expensive to fit in there. Before we had those 4 free attachment points. So I mean, even now, if they were 2 points, you would now still see them in action, at least one of them.
At least one.
Yeah, because those 2 points would work within those 4 free attachment points you get. But now that they're 1 point, I think it's great. I really want to see them as commander versions, though. Also, that would be nice. I mean, it would mean that you don't buy another box because you already have it. But also, it just means creating those commander cards. Attachment card and 4 tactics cards. I know it's a lot. That would be like 16 tactics cards, plus 4 commander attachment cards. Yeah, I can dream though. And it would make it really
I think
cool.
you're more dreaming about cmon giving you 4 new commanders without having you actually buy a new box.
I would
to get
buy a
those 4
box for it
commanders.
too, to be honest. This would be really cool. I just think the characters are so cool and the potential there is great, and just trying stuff out. But yeah, that probably won't happen. But we'll see. So yeah, great change. Targaryens are still squishy. You got to shoot them down, I guess. Being able to shoot at a lot of these cav units will hurt them. I think that could be one way to tackle this, having a lot of range and shooting. But we'll see how it works. The other factions also have changes made, and there will be more attachments. So maybe the people will have attachments in their units that can somehow counter this or hurt the cavalry that charges them more, and maybe that'll set off this non-weakenable effect for these 4 guys. We'll see. All right. That's it for the attachments, and we're going into the combat units that have also been changed. Here we see the Stormcrow Mercenaries and the Stormcrow Dervishes. For the Stormcrow Mercenaries, it's just a change to motivated by coin, same as everything else, everywhere else. The Stormcrow Dervishes, also motivated by coin, is universally changed, and ambush. We talked about that as well. So we don't need to talk about the changes that much. Do you think it impacts how the units are played? Do you think it changes their pick rate? Stormcrow Dervishes were not picked much.
I think it makes the mercs a little bit more of a brawler. They do a little bit more work while they're engaged with something. I never used motivated by coin on these guys, so because you'd be replacing a zone's effect, but now you don't have to do that if it's just a negative control ability. So I could see this ability getting a lot more use out of for the Stormcrow mercs and for the dervishes now that it's this and not zone replacing the wealth zone. So I think it'll make the mercs a little bit more of a brawler, and then with all these different attachments you can throw in there now, you could, and they already have adaptive, so that's another free attachment point. At that point, you're going to just have extra attachment points, frankly.
Yes. You can put a 2-point attachment in them that goes down to 1. Then like Skahaz, for example.
Skahaz would be, he would be good in there. Even Ramsey, if you wanted to spend another one of your actual 40 points on him. But I think, and then the dervishes, you look at the dervishes, I can see a situation where motivated by coin comes into play when the dervishes ended the round engaged with something, something attacked them, and they ended the round engaged with somebody, and then the next round you claim the swords. Motivated by coin kicks in because your opponent doesn't control the wealth zone. These guys re-roll all their attack dice that you're throwing into whatever unit they're engaged with, and then you do your switch strike and you get out of there. I think the motivated by coin change is definitely benefiting both of these units in this case. And I think motivated by coin can really only be considered a nerf, I would say, in ranged units. So like the Fortune Seeker and some other units that would use it for ranged abilities, for ranged attacks. So I think in these guys, it's definitely a buff. And then ambush, again, ambush is great for these guys, for the dervishes, because they want to be flanking things. They're very fast. So dervishes and mercs got stronger. We'll see what their pick rate is. But they're good changes for them. It'll be interesting to see if these guys can do any extra work.
Yeah, I agree. And the last combat unit change is the Pit Fighters. We already mentioned that. Pit Fighters went down from 6 points to 5 points. So their point cost went down. And I think this is a great change for them. You will now actually see them. You haven't seen them before in lists. They were super squishy, too expensive for 6 points. Can dish out a lot of damage, but also take wounds when they attack. They take 2 wounds. And for 6 points, it was just too much, and they would just die too quickly and be a big heavy load on the point costs you have. But now with only 5 points and also with attachments that you can put in there for free, I think they're a really good unit. What's your take?
Yeah, I think in this new meta, a lot of folks are straying a little away from elite armies and going for trying to get higher activation armies so that they can slot all their attachments into them. It'll kind of remains to be seen whether the most powerful lists are going to be ones that are elite lists that don't use as many attachments, or those really wide lists that make use of all 4 attachments. Because there could be very easily be situations where a 40-point list or a 41-point list ends up being stronger than someone who's maxed out at 44 points just because of the way that they constructed the list. It's not necessarily more powerful to cram as many attachments into your army as you can and build your list in such a way that it allows you to have homes for 4 attachments.
Absolutely.
But I think pit fighters, when they released, I think a lot of folks said this unit looks kind of cool, but it's 6 points. They're not worth 6 points. Kind of the same thing as the Brazen Beast. When the Brazen Beast came out, they were 6 points. I think at 5 points and with these free attachments, these guys become really interesting because they do have some weaknesses, very weak morale, or no, not weak morale, excuse me, weak armor, and then they take those 2 wounds when they use their order. But I think some of those weaknesses can be shored up by some of these attachments that you can throw into them. You throw a Skahaz into there, now they have fueled by slaughter, so when they're attacking stuff, they're healing back. Even like a Grey Worm 2-pointer attachment, you throw them in there, and now they're hitting with 8, 7, and 6 attack dice. So there's a lot of cool stuff you can do, I think, with these guys now to shore up those weaknesses and make some really interesting plays with them now. So I think we might be seeing the first time that pit fighters will actually be taken in lists in a non-ironic way. So I'm excited to see what people can put together with these guys.
And they're really cool minis. Have you painted them yet?
Yeah. No, I haven't. Yeah, I haven't.
Me
I'd like to though. I can't paint something if it has. I paint so few units every year that I just can't justify painting something if it's not going to realistically get on the table. So
I feel you.
Maybe now though, because I would like to actually play with these guys now.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, should we look at some real quick? Look at some of the cavalry attachments we can put in. So which of the Bloodriders basically would you put in screamers, veterans, outriders? What do you think works there? Let me tell you what I thought. So the screamers really work with all the Bloodriders. It doesn't matter which one you put in. They will always be great. Obviously, Hago with Fueled by Slaughter is really good to heal up some wounds, but also the others are great. For veterans, I thought Rakaro or Jorah, who's not a Bloodrider, are great and can work very well. Rakaro with his elusive escape, if the veterans have moved and used their order to shoot quick fire, and then they charge in. Actually, sometimes you want to double shoot, but if you charge in, and then you can later retreat without the enemy being able to pivot, can be really strong for them. They can shoot again into the flank maybe next round. So that would be cool. And the Outriders, I think Jorah is a really good attachment with tactical reposition to get them into a position they need to be. You could also put Rakaro in there, maybe if they get charged, so they can get out. Is that something that you would sign off and say, yeah, that makes sense? Or did you have any other plans?
Yeah, I like those ideas. I always struggle to find a home for Kaholo a little bit because you're never going to get all of those battle scar bonuses because you can only ever go to you can only ever lose 1 rank before you get killed. I like Kotho. I always try to find a way to use Kotho, especially in a dragon build, because I kind of
Hmm.
like to pair, like have the screamer. I would like to have the screamer with Kotho kind of palling around with the dragon, and then having them both attack the same thing, so you can make use of the intimidating presence. And then when the dragon torches something, then if the screamers got beat up and they're engaged, then with Prey on Fear, it'll heal those guys up. So I think there's a lot of synergy there with a Kotho screamers and a dragon flying around. So I like that. But no, I thought all your other feedback on these guys was spot on too. Ricaro is a really versatile Bloodrider for sure, and he likes being in those shooty cavalry units. So he's and we all know ranged units are the first thing that get weakened in the game generally.
Yeah,
Them and lance cav. So if you stick them in veterans or in outriders, you're gonna make a unit that's extremely annoying for your opponent.
absolutely. Okay, great. I would quickly like to look at some lists, but we'll just gloss over them just to give you an idea of what maybe to try out. The patch has only been out for a short time, so we also haven't been able to try out much of this. And there are a lot of lists flying around there. A lot of those lists from people that are more experienced than us. But maybe just the list that we already talked about would be Jorah in a full cav unit with I've built one here with 3 screamers, so you have 2 Bloodriders in each one in each of these screamers, and then you have Ricaro and Outriders also. And then I've put because the points were left over after putting 3 NCUs in, put Dothraki Wreckers in there, to have another quick unit. So you have 3 units that cannot be weakened. And I have Miri Zaro, obviously, because he's really good for Cav, because they only drop down one rank, and with his token, you can bring them up to highest attack die or full ranks for the attack. And I picked Pyatt. You could use a lot of stuff. You could put Kaith or something. I put Pyatt because I kind of want to try out Jorah's tactics cards some more. So so that you can maybe fish for feinting maneuvers to get into with another charge, get into the rear or the flank, or maybe also opportunist is kind of good for the screamers to get precision, or vicious for them, and to get rerolls. So those could be cool cards that you could use, and also he can heal cav units. So putting him in a cav heavy list, I think, makes sense. I'll just
Yeah,
go to the
it
next.
sounds like a lot
If
of
you
fun.
have nothing, no huge criticism
No,
about this.
just thumbs up. Sounds good.
Okay.
Would play.
All right. Then, of course, the Khal Drogo list, the list that you build first, and you see, wow, these Bloodriders. So Khal Drogo in veterans, I've put him because those 2 points are left over after building them. So you can put him in veterans. Don't need to put him in a screamer unit, which is kind of cool. He wants to be engaged though with his expert duelist. So you would probably play the veterans, shoot, soften the target up. And then eventually also charge to get his expert duelist auto wound in there, or to kill an attachment, which his expert duelist can be really fun now. Also, he's an attachment killer, though the chances aren't too high with the 5-up. I think you have to roll a die and 5-up. He kills the attachment. But in this patch, with a lot that we'll probably see a lot more attachments that can be fun. And then 3 units of Screamers with the Bloodrider in there, and Outriders with Ricaro in there. So this is kind of the list that a lot of people have been building first. You have Miri in there to dish out the tokens and also to heal an attachment. You said it already for the Jorah list. You can replace Jorah and Khal Drogo in these lists. Just swap them out. And it would still work. So if one of the Screamers dies, you put revive the attachment, and then Khal Drogo in veterans has Ricaro in them, for example, if the Outriders die, or has Hago in them with Fueled by Slaughter, and he cannot be weakened. So this could be really cool also for the veterans who don't want to be weakened when they shoot. So maybe that's something. And then Zaro as the second NCU. So this is a 5 combat unit and 2 NCU list, which I think, or we talked about it before. We might see a bit more now.
Yeah,
Okay.
it'll go to that question of is it more powerful to have spots for all of your free NCUs, or is it more powerful to have a third, or to have a spot for all of your attachments, or to have a third NCU? So
Yes.
I'll have to see how that goes. But
Exactly.
it'll also be interesting to see if any of the Drogo lists that make any waves here will have the Bloodrider unit in them, or if this patch is going to break up the band, so to speak, and Bloodriders are only going to be all separated on their own little solo careers, and you're not going to see them anymore in one unit. So we'll see.
I think definitely at the beginning of the patch, and then we'll see once it settles.
Yeah.
I've built a Mother of Dragons list. So I put them in blackguards. Her in blackguards. Blackguards got buffed. They now finally have a 6 movement, and that was something that always a 5 movement. Sorry, 6 would be a bit much. Yes. So they got buffed from 4 to 5, and the 4 movement on them was just super slow. And now that Jorah you get for free with Dany, Mother of Dragons, and I've also put Miri in there because she ignores the attachment limits and can do her stuff in there and maybe heal the blackguards up. And then Drogo and Rhaegal and Unsullied Pikemen with Grey Worm. I think Grey Worm is really cool right now also. As a 2-point attachment. Because he gives boldness and courage, so as you said before, the +1 die, and Rally Cry is really good for the dragons also. So that could be cool. And then Kaith, just to protect the dragons a little bit. Tycho to burst heal them, and Pyatt to take to fish out or resurrect another Fire Made Flesh or Promise of Fire.
Fire Made Flesh,
yeah, or Dracarys, depending on what you need. I think this is a cool list now, and it only wastes 1 of those free attachment points, because that's kind of what is discussed right now. The old Mother of Dragons list only had 1 attachment in there. Maybe you, instead of the pikemen here in this list, you would have an outrider or another screamer or a screamer with maybe 1 attachment in them, like the outriders would have the Fortune Seeker back in season 5. And now you can have Grey Worm, who costs 2 points, and Miri costs 1 point. So you only waste 1 point. Do you think it's going to be really difficult, even if you play the old Mother of Dragons list with like no attachment or just 1 attachment point for free? Maybe is that what is your prediction? And this is kind of looking into the glass bowl a little bit. Will people still play non-free attachment point optimized lists, or we don't use all 4 of them?
I think probably for Mother of Dragons, the previous version of the list that's been kind of refined through season 5 will probably still be the more competitive version of having the 3 dragons. I prefer the two dragon variant myself, but I wouldn't call myself the most competitive player out there. But I'm gonna guess that having the 3 dragons will probably still be the competitive pick. But then I guess the other question is, are we going to have a 2 NCU meta with that Mother of Dragons list, or are people going to forego the 3rd NCU and then take a cheaper combat unit as another in place of the NCU, and then throw some useful attachment into them? We shall see.
Makes sense. We'll have to be patient. Okay, and real quick, I'll show you an infantry list with Marcelen. In Swordmasters, Outriders with Rakaro, we talked about Screamers with Hago, of course. And then we've put Brazen Beasts in there for 5 points. They're great. They can take cool attachments. I couldn't fit the attachment in here in this list because the pit fighters already have Skahas for 2 points. I think he works really well in the pit fighters, bringing them fueled by slaughter. As we talked about, and then there were some points left for a Freedman unit, which you often see in Marcelen. There's only 2 NCUs here, Khaleesi to get rerolls into units and get weakened off of Brazen Beasts or Swordmasters. No, Swordmasters can't use the weakened, but pit fighters, Brazen Beasts and pit fighters can get the weakened off. And then Miri to resurrect those attachments maybe. So it's just one thing you can do. Just shows how you can play around. I don't think it's a super optimized list, but it's definitely going to be fun to play around with. All right.
Yeah, it looks like a fun list. I like the pit fighters with that's a very fun combo, and I really love Marcellin Commander lists. I think anybody if you go back to my channel and look at my Targaryen battle reports, I think the majority of them are Marcellin lists because I just think he's so fun. But
understandable.
I always feel a little uncertain when I don't have Missandei in there, so I can guarantee I get one of those devotees of the dragon. But yeah, this looks like a fun list, very wide, and lots of infantry. So looks cool, looks fun.
All right. So Randall, it's been a pleasure having you here, and really insightful. Thank you very much for that. And
thanks for the invite.
Anything else you want to say? Any maybe just a real quick, like 1 or 2 sentences. How does that whole patch influence Targaryens? At the beginning, we said they were in a good spot. Mother of Dragons was really strong. Drogo was still really strong. Skahas became very popular. So where are they now at the beginning of season 6?
Yeah, I think we're going to see, at least in the experimental phase of this patch, we're going to see a lot of people taking Cav spam lists, be it Jorah or Drogo, just to get all those Bloodriders in there, have unweakenable units, and even if the attachment brings something that you don't find terribly useful, like maybe you don't care about fueled by slaughter or battle scars, just having for 1 point an unweakenable unit of screamers is in and of itself extremely powerful. So I think we're going to see a lot of that. I also would love to see wide infantry lists with a lot of really cool infantry attachments, because I love the infantry game more than I love the cavalry game, because I am very sometimes inept with cavalry, so I love the infantry game a little bit more. So I'm excited.
The other way around with me. I can't position well with infantry. I always stand on my own feet there, so kind of in the way. But I have to watch more battle reports of yours. So I actually started with yours, being a Targaryen main, and you made those really cool Targaryen battle reports. I learned a lot from you there. So might have to revisit them. We'll see about that and see what happens. It's been a pleasure, and we're done for now. And let us know in the comments what your takes are, what your favorite lists are. If we got anything, we didn't talk about comparison of Mother of Dragons to Mag the Mighty, who gets point reduced. I think Mother of Dragons lists were very strong, so I think it's good for the game that Daenerys didn't get any of the Mag treatment here in any form. And I also think that even the 7 activation Mother of Dragons list from last season will still be very competitive. I'm excited for the first big tournaments to see how they perform. Okay, Randall, that's it. And there's nothing left to say. Then tune in again and roll those crits.
Come for the hits and stay for the crits.